Hello, my name is Scott Hamilton, and welcome to The Third Half. As our regular listeners know, The Third Half is where we explore the intersection of people, planet, and progress through conversations with people who continue to challenge, create, and inspire. That's you, Tina.
Wow. You should be my promoter. There you
go. Should be your promoter. I'm out there. Today's guest has one of the most fascinating leadership journeys I've come across in a while. Starting in commercial roles before moving into law, she has gone on to lead at the highest levels across international business, legal, operations and governance. Today she is Chief Operating Officer and General Counsel for BAE Systems International Business, working across Europe, North America, the Middle East and Asia Pacific. Alongside that, she chairs BAE Systems Community Investment Committee, chairs the Audit and Governance Committee of one of the UK's largest pension schemes, and is a passionate advocate for developing future leaders, which I love to talk about on The Third Half. Tina Wilson, welcome to The Third Half. How are you today other than hot?
No, I am fantastic, actually.
So, Tina, you describe yourself as somebody who has been shaped by challenge. So I want to talk about your journey and how you got here. And just tell me about that and that phrase itself, shaped by challenge, and what it means to you.
Do you know what? I didn't think I'd talk about this, but I will. I think the my in-depth need for challenge and overcoming challenge came from early school days where I had a school where you either went up a level every year or you actually stayed down a level, and I was put back a year, and that really affected me, and I think it still affects me now because I took that hard, and I then fought hard to never have that happen again. And I think part of it is everybody develops differently. And actually, because of the academic year and how it runs, it just so happened to fall like that. And so I know what it's like to, fail, inverted commas, but also that feeling of proving people wrong, or actually the personal feeling of putting yourself in an impossible position, but actually overcoming and achieving it is a phenomenal journey. And that's probably why I do these triathlons, I'm a marathon runner, etc., because I know it takes hard work and consistency, but the results are worth it.
So, does that, when we've known each other for over 20 years, and I didn't know that. Does that make you instinctivly a fighter then in the face of adversity?
Probably, yeah. I don't like failing, and I know that failure, makes you grow. But actually, for me, it's more around putting yourself into really difficult positions and then sort of trying to navigate out of it. And I think that's why I'm pretty good at my leadership role, because I've been there, done that, and I can keep calm and it's okay. You'll be fine.
You'll be
You'll be
fine.
fine.
So, and not unlike me, we're now about 2 minutes into this, and I'm completely off script already.
Me too. I didn't even talk about that.
Here we go.
You wanted honesty.
No. And listen, it's brilliant. But my question now becomes, how has that influenced your coaching of other leaders who face adversity in their careers, and whether those are young leaders or leaders, further on in the maturity curve?
I think a lot. I think what I love doing is developing talent. And I was going to say young talent, but it doesn't have to be young, does it? Any age
Yeah.
or anything. And when I look back, it's those positions where you've had individuals who just could not see themselves doing something, and you've sort of really sponsored them and coached them into it because you've been there. You're not necessarily been in their exact position or in their exact role, but you've been there with that feeling in the tummy, with the overthinking, with the imposter syndrome, or you've thinking the world's on top of you, that actually they're thinking that you can't do it. Actually, it's just about breaking it down into small pieces and having confidence, being curious, and actually having a bit of courage, because most people don't have that sort of readily in combination. And if you've got those three, then you can pretty much achieve all you want.
Yeah. I think that's super interesting. And we also talk a lot about this, and I think it's overused now a little bit. Fear of failure. Don't fear failure. Don't fear failure. And I think it's really easy to say that, but unless you experience it and you have experienced it yourself and sharing that, people are much more empathetic with that as a message, aren't they?
Yeah, it's interesting because it obviously, these days when you go on to any kind of leadership course, or you have to take the 360, sort of psychometric tests, there's a load around that failure point, and I hate failing.
Mm.
So, and trust me, you don't want a lawyer to fail, do you? So I try pretty damn hard at failing, but failure is so much broader than just not achieving something. It's being in a position where you've perhaps not brought your best self to it. So that's where I sort of put failure these days, is,
Mm.
where could have Tina been better? Could she have arrived better? Or could she have left the room feeling much, much clearer and better than she has done?
I love that. I love that. I don't think I've heard that before. As I leave the room, how could I have left that room making it feel better? Listen, I want to go back a little bit. You mentioned the law there and working in law, but am I right in saying you didn't actually start your career in law? You started in commercial.
No, yeah, I was an economist to start with, so I did economics back in the day, which is probably the one thing that has been consistent with all the geopolitics and the financing. But I started my career in international finance, actually in oil and gas. And the funny story of how I ended up in BAE Systems is that I always wanted to be a fighter pilot. I can't remember if I told you this story.
No.
But my eyesight's pretty damn shocking. And at university, I wanted to join the RAF cadets, and they said, nah, no chance you'll be able to fly because you're virtually blind. Of which then I joined the army, and I was a trainee army officer. So I trained as an army officer. When I left university, I did the usual traveling, and then I went into finance, mainly because of the economic side. Um, and I received, back in the day, you used to still get physical job ads. And there was this job ad that had the Tornado fighter jet across it and said, then it was British Aerospace. And I thought, you know what? If I can't actually fly one, I'll work for an organization that builds them. And that's about it. So, and then I joined as what they call a commercial officer manager, and that's very much finance and negotiating contracts. And then the organization, because coming back to the other thing I love to do is I want to keep growing, then I wanted to get my brain going, another academic challenge. And that's when I did the law conversion degree, and then went to train as a lawyer at a city law firm, and then became a lawyer. And now I'm sort of I'm coming full circle, I think, sort of having done the COO role and leadership. So yeah, I never do anything the easy way. You know that.
So I've now got a really scary image of a young executive who wanted to fly fighter jets, thought about getting into the army, runs marathons, trained to be a lawyer. You wouldn't want to sit opposite the table from you and negotiate. you know?
Well, I guess I think my team would agree with you, but I think they love the energy that I bring, that no, anything's possible. We can just break it down and navigate it. We were away last week for 3 days and looking at how we map the world and how we increase sort of operational efficiency and how we navigate through the geopolitics. And it's fascinating, but really small group. But with a really small group, you can achieve a lot if you bring that energy to it. I think that's what I try and do, bring energy, probably exhaustion as well. So
No, absolutely, lots of energy, and and just thinking about the energy thing, was there ever a kind of real plan, or did that energy kind of lead to the next thing is this? And we talked last week about you've had 32 years in BAE Systems, but it's felt like, I can't remember what you said, 25 different jobs type thing, although it hasn't
Yeah,
been at the time.
yeah.
So was that the plan, or did things kind of,
Oh,
you know,
no, do you know, I never really had a career plan. I just had this fire in my belly that I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to achieve. I didn't know what a leader was. I think I called it a manager then when I was young. I wanted to be a manager. And then I've always wanted, I think I've always had ambition. But I've not really known what that ambition was for. And I've been extremely fortunate to have, mentors and coaches who've been able to navigate my energy and desire to do things into certain roles. But also, I think all of us would agree, a lot of the roles are timing, aren't they? A bit of luck,
mm,
timing, and actually a willingness to do something, different. One of my big roles, which was quite game changing, was to be the legal director of maritime up in naval
mm,
ships and submarines. And we negotiated the aircraft carrier while sorting out the submarines, while, sort of creating a joint venture and actually redesigning the whole sort of sovereign naval capability organization. And I was, what, 31? And I got that role because nobody else, you'll like this, would go to Glasgow. And I'm like, I'll go to Glasgow. I'll go to Glasgow. And that's where, I think that's where I ended up in the international. I don't mind picking up my bag and going because that's the way you learn, isn't it? Just get out there and do it. So
first, first stop Glasgow, next stop, I don't know, Iraq.
oh, Glasgow, Barrow, yeah. Compare that with, Ukraine, Iraq, yeah. Not quite the same, but still challenges, still
Yeah.
challenges. So
Oh,
yeah,
I bet, yeah.
yeah.
And again, interesting point there you raise about this leadership thing. You always thought of, manager leadership. Have you ever stopped thinking of yourself as a lawyer and more as a leader, or do they come kind of hand in glove?
It's funny as you've indicated, I'm leaving my role. I decided to leave the organization because it's been phenomenal. Every 4 years, pretty much, give or take a year, I've had completely new jobs, and that's because I've wanted to push myself. And I've kind of run out of those interesting jobs that I think I can grow into around it. So for me, it was about sort of it, just being a bit more honest with yourself of what you want and what will make you happy around it, and what also the organization needs. And sometimes they don't need my skill set. So one of the really interesting roles that I was tapped on the shoulder, don't you love this? I was tapped on the shoulder to go and be the chief counsel in our American business. And they tapped me on the shoulder, and then they made me, it was like 3 months worth of interviews and panels. I'm like, how can you tap me and then make me jump hoops? But all learning experience. But one of the interviews that really stuck out to me, the CEO at the time said to me, Tina, I want a business leader that just happens to be a lawyer. And that's how I define myself now, very much so. I would say I'm a leader, and I have some subject matter expertise, and I'm a lawyer. And if you're a lawyer, you don't know much about the law because the law is a big thing. You just have
Mm.
certain areas you do know about it. Does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
No, no, absolutely it
Yeah.
does. I love that, and I think this is really important because a lot of people move into leadership and they kind of forget the skill set. I'm now a leader, right? So all I need to do is to
No,
lead people, and I don't think you can lead people without some content because very naturally in the area that you're in, you still have to show a bit of direction and make decisions. And you can only make decisions and show direction if you have the content and the knowledge. But as you say, the law is such a broad topic, isn't
no.
it? And you need to keep abreast of all new developments and everything as well.
I think what I like with what I do with the legal part of it is that I'm able to lead the business into areas that it's right next to the edges of what's possible because I
Mm.
kind of know innately with being a lawyer what is right and wrong, and therefore I can take it much further out to what is possible than what often people assume, that you can only do this, that, and the other. It's like, no, let's redesign it and do it. Let's push it right to the edges.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I've been reading quite a lot of your posts, and as I've been doing my research for having this chat with you, and there is you use a phrase and it comes out actually knowing you a bit from previous existence, and you use this phrase, "I'm at my best when the path isn't clear."
Mm, yeah.
And what does that really mean in practice, and how has that defined a lot of the things that you've been doing?
Um, I'm absolutely at my best where things are ambiguous. There's never been done before, or there's no right answer, and you're navigating through it. And I'm not at my best because I think I know the answer. I think it's because one, I really enjoy that challenge, but actually, bringing people together to navigate through that and find new ways of doing it is really rewarding. And actually, the team finds it exhilarating, scary,
Mm.
but really rewarding. So, the stuff we did in Ukraine, I got a call, we're going to go and set up a company and set up operations in a war zone. It's like, holy SSSS.
Yeah,
And it's like, but we did it, we made, we've done it. So and there are other examples that we do it. So yeah, I tell you what, I will be honest. I was talking to a colleague and telling her I was leaving, and she was a bit shocked, and I was explaining why. And she said, Tina, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you're a bit of an adrenaline junkie, aren't you? And I think that's probably part of it, is I like that adrenaline. And when things are ambiguous and grey, there's nothing like it, because you everything is finely tuned and you're navigating through it.
and that's And again, I'm kind of balancing this, exciting energy, working in ambiguity and uncertainty with leadership and the law. I mean, the law is the law ambiguous in itself. So is your
Yeah.
natural skill set and learnings, does it lead itself towards thriving in ambiguity even more?
Yeah, maybe. I think it's probably your trained very I always say as a lawyer, because you don't know everything about the law, what you are trained to know is find out things very, very quickly and then come up with a solution very, very quickly. So I think I've got confidence I'll find a way through it. And there are many parts of my job that aren't as exciting, governance and compliance, but they are extraordinarily important. And actually, there are areas that you really get to the heart of what's going on, and actually setting up the right program and enables the business to operate in areas, both in terms of geography and product services, that they never would think they could do, because you've got the confidence that the organization can operate in a very compliant and safe manner.
Hmm.
Now I'm boring you.
No, 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 not at all. Not at all. Because like I had written down here actually something about execution because
Yeah.
and again you talk a lot about it's not about the strategy, it's about execution, and that's our competitive advantage,
Mm,
And I guess in the very nature of the business that you've been working with, execution is all, isn't it? Like
it
you
is.
have you have to land, you have to make it work. And
Yeah.
as clunky and as difficult it is, there is no room for kind of failure in some respects in terms of the end product itself.
Yeah.
And
So
you sorry, go on. My,
no,
my
go for it.
question is, do people still struggle with that as a kind of mindset of change? And it change is all very interesting, but it has to have a clear executable outcome.
I think so. You can imagine certainly the organisation. I mean, now it's a big organisation, and I think the perception is that it moves very slowly. Well, it doesn't. At times, it can move very, very quickly and very agile around it. I think for me, my natural sort of DNA is, I sort of operate at pace, but that
Mm.
doesn't mean at risk at pace. I've got a bias to action, where, if you're on a project management course, you probably hate me because you probably want to sit there for 6 months and plan. We plan, but I want to make sure things are done. We were talking last week about how we improve operational efficiency. The world is changing. We've got to open offices here, we've got to close there, we've got to do that. And it's how we do it really really quickly. And some of it is just getting the basics really good, and you're confident in the basics, and then you can actually then move much, much more quickly.
Yeah, and I don't want to do the kind of whole. 'Cause I know is it overstated or understated? I don't know about women in business, women in leadership type thing,
Mhm.
but the very nature of the business you work in, and forgive me, I would have thought it'd be quite a kind of macho, masculine type environment because again, the very nature of that end product. Has being a woman helped you differentiate actually and push yourself forward more, or do you still think you're one of a kind of minority in the business that can achieve what you've achieved, which is amazing what you've achieved?
It really depends. Look, I've never been an outward feminist. I've never been setting up women's group or chanting that, I'm a minority in the organization. I think I've just operated as best I can to show that I can do it equally
Yeah.
around. And, when I look back in the early days of my career, fact, there weren't that many females. I think at one point I was the only female in that particular organization. Did I feel like I was the only female? No, I didn't. I didn't feel like I was sort of held back or had to achieve more. But I think it did add to my drive around it. And now, when I look at where I am now, my team is predominantly female. And that's not,
Mm.
I've not hired them by choice because they're female. They're bloody good. So why wouldn't I? Um, but there are other parts of the organization and other functions of the organization that has a little way more to go. I think it is, we have not achieved equality on a lot of things, and we still need to work towards that. For me, the fact that I'm female, do I think that holds me back? I think at the moment, when I talk to people looking at my next career, it's time to leverage that. But that doesn't sit well with me. Just
Yeah.
because I'm female, I should be sort of given more preferential treatment. I just want to be sort of achieving because of what I do and what I bring and what I help others
Mm.
bring.
And you posted recently after the FT Women in Business Summit, yeah.
Yeah,
And again, just going back to this thing about sponsoring and mentoring, and you made an interesting comment when we chatted the other week, which is, well, I feel as if I've been sponsoring and mentoring in all my life. Don't
yeah.
really need to go on a course to do that. And again, going back to what you mentioned earlier, there is that a product of the fact that you've had good sponsorship and mentoring from the outset, and you feel as if it's a natural position to take with young leaders and older leaders coming through as well?
I think there's probably a number of things. I think I've been really lucky to have some great people sponsor and actually spend time. And even now, when I look to transition, I'm speaking to people who are creating the time for me that I never thought I would. And that some of it is giving back, isn't it? And some of it is like, some of the stuff we do is hard. So the
Mm.
best way that you're going to get people to come with you is spend time with you. I've also been in lots of courses where they've said, Tina, you need to bring people with you. You're going to spend time. But for me, I'm not good enough to do things on my own.
Mm.
So that means I've got to have really good people around me. In order to have really good people around me, they want to be around me, and therefore it's much better then if I make them feel good and actually want to be in their role and confident around the role, and sort of helping people feel good about themselves and feeling as though they can do things that they thought they couldn't. That feels good.
I love that. I genuinely love that of everything I've heard from people over the past 6 months. So I have a gap in my own capability. I acknowledge that. I acknowledge I can't do everything myself. I need good people in my team. I need to encourage them. I need people who want to join the team. And part of that is sponsoring and mentoring people
Yeah.
and showing them what I mean that's leadership right there.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
love
the I leave at the proudest moment where the key members of my team are stepping up. One of the areas that I'm and one of the guys that are on my team, I'm really good at sort of thinking about different ways of doing things and sort of, right, okay, we can do that by bang, 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 bang. Actually getting it on paper as a strategy is not my forte, but if I bounce these ideas out with my team, they'll come up with a pack that is phenomenal around it. So you've got really complementary skills around that, but you've got to invest in finding them, haven't they? And they've got to invest in you as well.
Yeah,
So
for sure. And you talked about the event. Was it last week, the 2 or 3 day event?
yeah, we just took a few days out. So yeah, it was great.
And that's, but again, I mean, 35 years in industry I've been and stuff like that, and I wonder whether, and maybe this was part of the pandemic and COVID, we're kind of like you're on calls all day, every day, you're in meetings all day, every day, and I worry about thinking time. And again, when I read your post about the day, you talked about, the thinking that had to be done because of the environment changing in which
Yeah,
the corporation operates with defense spending reviews and everything.
yeah.
So coming out of that event, how did the team feel? I think they must have been, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but super energized coming out of that.
I think if they were honest, I think they were super energized and much more confident they can do it without me, which is a
Mm.
sad feeling for me. And that's what I wanted, is that this is not all around me. This is all around you guys. I just need to nudge you in the right direction. And we're going to spend a few days here just mapping out what we need to be doing, what we need to focus on. But also, I'm going to challenge you about doing something really, really different. You've got all this new technology coming down. How are we going to change what we're doing to leverage that? And that's something that people don't necessarily, they like to think they like change, but they don't when it comes down to actually challenging what they do day to day. And we had some fantastic ideas and videos and all sorts. And for me, that was fantastic. Sad that I'm not part of their future journey, but super, super proud that they don't need me anymore.
Are
And
you good?
that's where it's time for me to go.
Are you going to be looking back though, thinking, "Oh, I wonder if they've put into practice what we talked about on that last couple of weeks"?
Good point. Yeah, good
Well,
point.
it's dreadful, isn't it? It's like, I mean, I've moved on a few times, and unlike you, I've changed company a few times, and you're always like, oh, I wonder what's happening with that project I was working on,
Yeah, I
But you got to
know.
keep looking forward, haven't you? I mean, that's the
Yeah, I think if I do that, it's a slippery slope, isn't it? It's sort of, I've been there, I've done it. It's sort of what's next. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So listen, you talk a lot about running and your
You say
marathons,
that
everything like
with
that.
a heavy heart there, Scott.
You make me feel like, oh, lazy. Like what? Why running? What is it? Is it escaping the inbox, or is it like, this is the chasing a PB all the
I,
time?
you've probably got a feeling I'm not good at sitting still. And despite my domain expertise of being a lawyer, you would think I would love to sit and read a book. Not a chance. For me, one, running is cheap. So I started it at uni to, it's cheap. But it's my own space. Most of the problems that I've come across, particularly in the technicality of putting deals together, if you're not getting anywhere, I'll go and put my trainers on. And more often than not, I've got an answer by the end of it, because you've kind of cleared your mind, and there's some science behind this, isn't it? That actually your subconsciousness, and there's part of your brain that you're not tapping into. But if you let yourself just be in the moment, then things will come to you. And that's my running. So my running is meditating, and I can my day and my week is so unpredictable. Most of the time I'm traveling, so it's also very practical, because I can just take my trainers and I can go and see the city first thing in the morning, and that has got me into trouble because I've got lost a few times. But so yeah, yeah.
Is this back to your eyesight? I
No, hugely bad sense of direction.
I just did that. I was when you were saying about I wanted to be a fighter pilot, but like my sight was too bad. I was thinking actually I wanted to run the 800 meters, but I couldn't see, so I ended up running the marathon.
Yeah, probably. Probably, yeah.
And that sense of escapism. I mean, again, I'm fascinated by this because I go to the gym and I put music on and stuff like that. Do you when you go running? Do you just listen to your environment, or do you put music on, or do you listen to a
I
podcast?
do tend to put music on because it just gives me I like music and I just put it on around. It's not the end of the world if I don't, but I do tend to, and it's nothing cool, believe me.
Go go
Anything from,
go on.
George Michael, self-esteem, all sorts. So
Oh,
yeah.
really? So, do you have I'm fascinated by this. I was talking to Michelle Prans, who's the managing director of NatWest Metal Business Bank, about this. What's on your playlist?
Exactly. Well, my partner now, husband, he says, "Well, we can now join our Spotify accounts." I'm like, he'd go mad because he's super cool, Radio 6, got all the cool music. If he listened to mine and it started the algorithms trending, he'd be mortified. So yeah.
You'd be like, what?
Easy list. Oh, I tell you what, I bought yesterday the Madonna Confessions 2. There you go.
Ah, loved it. Yeah,
There you
brilliant.
go.
Can't
There
beat a
you
better
go.
match, can you? And actually, just to go back a bit, I find that quite funny. If you're at a kind of like deadlock kind of negotiation, I'll just put on my trainers and go for a run.
Do you not? Yeah, yeah. I
But
do. I do. People have literally said to me, "Oh, you need to go for a run." And I'm like, I think you're right. And my partner's the same. Is like, oh, he'll know when I'm not feeling, something's going on. He's like, "Have you run today? Have you been for exercise?" I'm like, "Nope." He'd be like, "Oh, no, you need to go before you go to bed. Otherwise, there's no sleep here because you're
that's
just going to
it.
be overly thinking around it." So I'm sure there's also now a medical reliance on that endorphin hit that I get as well. So yeah.
Again, I can just imagine everybody sitting in the negotiation room saying, "Tina's away for a run. I wonder whether it's going to be a jog round the block, or she's going to do
A
she'll,
marathon,
she'll
literally.
reappear in 3 hours with the answers.
Exactly,
She
exactly.
will get a cup of tea." So, any other guilty pleasure? Well, not that running's a guilty pleasure, but what else do you do to relax and chill?
Well, what I am patient, and this is testing my patience, is I think I mentioned to you, I am learning to play the guitar. Um, I have a lesson once a week. I go with my guitar and I pitch up to my lesson and I sit next to the 3-year-old, 7-year-old and their parents, and then there's just me. So I feel very, very self-conscious that I am a grown woman here at a music lesson. But you know what, Scott? It's usually one of the favourite spots in my diary for the week. No matter how I feel, no matter how anxious or stressed, I always come out of there elated because I think I'm allowed to be rubbish at something. I'm getting better. I'm learning something completely different, and I know it's a long haul. I know it's a long haul. So yeah.
So I love that. I went to a samba drumming lesson yesterday in London,
Wow.
birthday present from my daughter. And about half an hour in, I realised, even though I can sing a bit, and I do think I've got a bit of rhythm, I can't play the drums. And she kept looking at me. And the unfortunate thing, there was 40 dancers in front of us who were dependent on our rhythm. So I just love that picture. You sitting
Yeah.
alongside a 3-year-old. Hi, Tina
Yeah.
Wilson, BAE Systems International General Counsel, rocking it out.
Oh, I wish I could rock. Do you know what? The kind of stuff I've had to do over my career, some really crunchy stuff,
Hmm.
sort of going into war zones or heading off into senior negotiations or just helping people that are in trouble. The most scariest moment of my life was literally pitching up for the very first time with my guitar because I had no idea. I had no idea. And I think that has helped me think, do you know what? It's okay to be not know anything because you've got to learn. And if you know nothing, there's no bad habits. And that's exactly what he said. He was lovely, my teacher. He said, "That's brilliant. You've got no bad habits. We'll start from basics." And that's how it went. It was great.
And you said something again a minute ago. Like, it's not bad to be rubbish. Not that you are, but as I was drumming yesterday,
Yeah,
it's not wrong to be rubbish at something. You know,
no,
like, just
I
try it out and have a go.
and that's it. That is. I do pitch up at my lessons and I feel like a schoolgirl. Like, oh, I forgot my homework book. And it's like, I haven't done my practice because I haven't done my
The
practice.
dog get the dog get my homework.
Like he's gonna shout at me at my age. It's like I'm paying you, but it's probably the easiest half an hour he has all week.
So, as well as all the energy, enthusiasm, and ambiguity, you're clearly still investing in yourself through. And I know that through the program, the Deloitte's Women on Boards. You still got this curiosity as well, even after all
Yeah,
these years.
I think that's the scare. I think that's the bit that scares me most that I won't have the opportunity to do that. So the women on board was phenomenal because, in fact, when you talked about, being a female, when I first joined Deloitte's Women on Boards, you had your first cohort, and let's say there was 30 women. I have never been in a room up until that point with 30 senior executive women, full stop, never. And it was
Mm.
interesting when we were asked to introduce ourselves because Paul, my husband, said the night before, "Oh, what were you going to say?" I'm like, "I'm Tina, I'm CEO, and I'm a lawyer." He's like, "I think you need to do better than that." I'm like, "Nah." Fortunately, I wasn't up first. Holy moly. They were like 20 minutes each. Their introductions talked about their cancer, their struggles, their parenting. And it was such a different vibe than if it was a group of men. They went
Yeah.
much deeper in terms of what brought them there. And I was just really enthralled on that. And then just recently, I've really just started it. I've joined Blend, which is a cross-functional sector sort of networking all around how I can one transition to the next stage. But part of me, I'm going to have to learn a different sector, a different cohort of groups. So I've joined this sort of group, one to give me a bit more, keep that professional, my toe in the professional world, the corporate world, but also pick and talk about different things. In fact, I joined one call and it was very American and it was talking about women's health in organizations. Goodness me, I learned about the US healthcare. I thought the NHS was superb in comparison, but it was just learning about something completely different again. So to the
Mm.
point, yes, still investing.
It's almost like
Not necessarily intentionally, but still investing.
well, no, but actually, not maybe not intentionally, but maybe unconsciously. That's just
Yeah,
you, isn't it? And
yeah,
again, I love the term curiosity. Because being curious
yeah.
keeps you on your toes and it drives the learning. And even after whatever 30 odd years and having a
Yeah,
hugely successful career, I think this is amazing for people who listen to this and will tune into this to hear that you should still be curious because that's what drives you on, and to have that energy is I find it infectious. I'm coming off here really energized as well. Don't know what I'm going to do next.
I think there's two things to me is curious and courage. I think if there was two
Mm.
things that define, I think as I leave, I think people will reflect on the courage because it's not the courage in the fact that I go and fight things. It's the fact that if nobody's making the decision in the room, I'll stand up and make a decision. And a classic was just this summer when we were looking at, overseeing the Middle East tensions and the reaction to that. We had to make a decision on who to evacuate. That isn't actually an easy decision because there's a ripple effect, and it had to be made. So I had to make it, and isn't until afterwards you realise, oh, actually, you know that 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 was the right thing to do to make the decision, but not necessarily everybody is comfortable with making the decision. They're comfortable with commenting on the decision, but not necessarily making the decision.
I'll bet.
So yeah,
And I think this is hugely important that, when I talk to people from technology or banking and stuff like that, that decisions that they make tend to be at the end of the day money related. Yeah.
yeah,
You're making huge decisions and have been making huge decisions that impact life and livelihood. And
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it must take you a while to, how shall I say, get in tune with that and get comfortable with it.
I think it does, and I hate to say this, but I think it does come with that experience, and it's that judgment call,
Mm.
um, and knowing how to make that judgment call. And I think for me, I'm confident in my judgment because I have got it wrong a lot of the time. Part of doing international business for decades, international business always goes wrong. So you're always going to be learning. So at some point, you become good at it because you've done it wrong so many times. And I think now I've learned. And when you sort of said, how do I relax? The other thing I love is sort of audio listening. And I
Mm.
listen to non-fiction. And part of my degree, my economics, is behavioral science. And what I love to listen to is sort of the neuroscience and how your brain works and how you can learn more about your brain. And there's a big part of your brain that is processing unconsciously a lot of stuff. And that gut feeling is the unconscious part of your brain telling you
Mm.
something's not right. So I've learned how I can trust some of that stuff, that I don't necessarily have to consciously know things are right or wrong. I'll feel it. And it's the science behind it.
Interesting. And that,
We're going down a rabbit hole now.
no, 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 no. But again, I love that, and I think that so gut. You know, a lot of people kind of dismiss, oh, my gut instinct, but yeah, I should follow my brain. But actually, your gut instinct is a from what you're saying, a kind of physiological
It
manifestation, and
is.
you should therefore challenge your brain. You know, and
Oh,
that's
yeah. So a lot of my role in the last 4 years hasn't been traveling to go and see countries. I've been out in regions, and I'll be staying there a day or so longer. And as my team will say, oh, she'll be making the tea again. So I'll be sitting, standing and, just absorbing. And you'll come away and you'll get a feel. And you'll have been picking up what is going on and trusting that feel that, oh, hold on, something's not quite right here. And I've done that and I've felt that. And I've then set up a team and said, look, we need to very carefully unpill something's not going. And more often than not, something big has not get is gone wrong, and you're unpeeling it. And that
mm,
that has literally been through just getting that feeling. And it's not a feeling you stand there and the feeling sort of comes upon you. It's many data points that don't make sense, and it is that sort of, you know
mm,
odd feeling that you act upon.
yeah, interesting.
Maybe.
Listen, I could literally talk to you all afternoon about this, but we should start to wind up. I've got some
Yeah.
quick fire questions for you, mostly around
Okay.
leadership, actually. But what's the best leadership advice you've ever received?
Um, for me, get comfortable operating in the grey area,
Love it. Biggest misconception about leadership?
telling people what to do.
Oh, very good. Most underrated quality in a leader?
Oh, I think it is that courage. I think it is that courage. Yeah.
Great. And having courage in the line of business you've been in is so
Yeah.
important. Um,
Yeah.
and not quite so much about leadership, but when you look
I
ahead,
tell you what, no, no, no,
oh, go
actually,
on.
keeping people safe,
Great.
keeping people in every single manner, whether it's psychological or physically, keeping people safe.
Brilliant. Um, when you look ahead, what genuinely gives you optimism? Because it's very easy to be pessimistic, isn't it? And negative, especially with everything that's going on in the world.
For me personally, I've got to ride through this uncomfortable feeling that I don't know what I'm going to be doing because I know it will be great. And that gives me optimism when I've been through, these challenges when I've made changes. It's never felt good, but it has ended up being fantastic. Um, I think there are a lot of exciting things that will come in order for people to do. Um, and we need to focus on that rather than what is being taken away.
Interesting. And in 20 years' time, when people look back at what you achieved, and you have achieved so much at BAE Systems, what do they hope they kind of see and feel about what you've delivered to the business?
I think I'd like to think they thought that I made a difference and I moved moved the industry forward, moved you know, enabled people, countries, sovereigns to do things that they wanted to do that was right.
Brilliant. Tina, it's been an absolute pleasure
It's
to
like a
have you
therapy
on.
session. Thank you.
I was going to say, I was like, oh, I always wonder when people walk away from this where they go, oh my God, I never want to speak to that guy again. But I know how busy you've been, and I know how, we've been connected for such a long time. It's
Yeah,
genuinely lovely to make this happen.
yeah.
And, I've kind of watched all the things you've been doing, and it's not your title. It's what I've loved talking to you is about your reflections on leadership, sponsoring and creating organizations where people can thrive, and I think that people are going to get such a lot out of this. And I know that whatever you do next and wherever you end up, because of your energy, because of your curiosity and your love of, lack of clarity and ambiguity, you're going to deliver a huge amount of value wherever you end up next.
Well, I hope so, and hopefully at some point I'll turn around and say, yeah, I was right in doing that. So yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt, Tina Wilson, it's been a joy having you on here.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Scott.
much.
All
Enjoy the
right.
rest of your afternoon.
Take care. Bye bye.
Just finished off the bread, so I walk over Soho and I read about Monroe, and I wonder, was she really what they said? Got a call from a good friend, come on